Thank you. So you can do the reaction tab and raise your hand and also have 3 minutes if you would like to make a comment on an item that is not on the agenda. All right. I don't think we have any comments for today.
None.
Okay.
No comments. Public hearing. Oh, beg your pardon. Consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and non-controversial and will be enacted by one motion unless any member of the Planning Commission wishes to remove an item for discussion. So A is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held August the 16th, 2023.
Commissioner Devlin, I motion to adopt the consent agenda of the Planning Commission of the City of Yreka as presented.
Okay.
Right, so we have 3 passed. I've got this pesky fly also. Public hearing.
You do need to take a vote.
So the vote is
So just a call to question. It's like all those in favor of approving the minutes as presented.
Thank you.
Yep.
All those in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
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 You may approve the minutes. Yep. Okay. So prior to introducing item number 6, did you want to discuss?
It's Don Mariatri. I need to recuse myself from this. So, thank you. That all I need to say?
Yeah, the only thing to add is the reason you're recusing yourself is because you spoke at the last meeting when this item was before the commission, and therefore, out of abundance of caution and not to have a predetermination argument, it's recommended that you recuse yourself from this and not participate.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Public hearing. Time.
If you want to just give her a moment to leave the room.
Right. Public hearing. Title 2021-45. Yreka Travel Center and Hotel Development Planned Unit Development Amendment. Conditional use permit amendment and variance. The Planning Commission will hold a public hearing and consider the following amendment to Planned Unit Development PUD number 598 and associated use permit number 2883 and approving variance 2021-45 for assessors parcel numbers 053-642-350, 053-642-360, 053-642-370, and 053-642-380 within the city of Yreka. The application proposes 2 phases, herein referred to as the project. Phase 1, a 12,300 square foot building consisting of a convenience store, a food hall, and retail shop open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. A fuel center with 8 dispensers for automobiles and RVs. A separate fuel center with 4 diesel dispensers for semi-trucks and a 99-space parking lot. Phase 2, a 70-room, 3-story hotel and parking. Recommended action. Hold public hearing and accept public comments. 2, motion to approve resolution 2023-06, a resolution of the Planning Commission and of the City of Yreka approving amendment to Planned Unit Development PUD number 598 and associated use permit number 2883 and approving variance 2021-45 for assessors parcel number 053-642-350, 053-642-360, 053-642-370, and 053-642-380 within the city of Yreka.
Thank you. All right, well, for just the purposes of the process tonight for members of the public and the commission, we will go through the staff report. We will then open to the commission for clarifying questions only, no discussion. And then we will invite the applicant's representatives to the podium for a maximum of 15 minutes to address any comments or concerns that you have, address any questions that you have related to the project itself. And then we will open up into the public hearing in which members of the public will have 3 minutes to address you. We will close that public hearing once everyone has had a chance to go through, and then we will open up into discussion. And then you are free to discuss the project at hand. So that is the process we're going through for today. So I'll start us off with the staff report. This is going to be a fun one. We don't normally get as many people as we have here. So today we're dealing with planned unit developments, which are governed by chapter 16.60 of the City of Yreka Municipal Code, which outlines the purpose, procedure, and conditions for granting and amending planned unit developments within the city limit. The planned unit development in question 5-98 was approved by the Planning Commission with use permit number 283, which has since been amended several times, which is outlined on page 9 of your agenda packets. And so the original PUD use applied to 2 parcels, which were further subdivided with a tentative parcel map, which allowed auto truck refueling, recreational vehicle park, restaurant, and hotel motel site. The use permit also subdivided the 2 parcels, as I stated before, into 4 parcels and a remainder. Since the creation of the PUD, there have been 3 amendments to the site plan and permitted uses of the PUD. And those amendments are permit number 3081, which was done in July 19th, 2000, which was an amendment to the PUD to change the location of the RV park within the PUD from the original location to the southeast edge of the PUD on the remainder parcel created in the original use permit. Permit number 3507, which was approved in July 20th, 2005, which amended the PUD to allow sale of park model recreation vehicles and RV repair business in addition to the already permitted uses. The amendment allowed both a temporary use on APN 053-642-390 and a permanent use on APN 053-642-340, which are 2 neighboring parcels to the proposed project. The third amendment was 4010, which was approved August 17th, 2009, which was an amendment to the PUD to allow retail businesses established within a building consistent with C2 and CH zones, in addition to the currently approved uses. And this amendment was not confined to any specific parcel within the PUD. There were 2 subsequent site plan modifications, permits number 3906 and 3927, that did not go through a PUD amendment process, but did approve the Yreka truck stop located at 787 Montague Road, Yreka, and site plan modifications to that, which is listed on page 9. Finally, there was an additional conditional use permit issued for that same property to allow for long-term residents on the 2nd story of the truck stop retail building. So the project at hand is a proposal for an amendment to have the 2 phases, as you've mentioned before. One of the conditions of approval is that the original proposal is proposed to city staff recommend that you amend that to only allow the RVs to go to the freight fueling portion of the project, which is the 2nd entry. And for those of you in the audience, there is an additional supplement to the application or to the agenda packet, which is available in 11/17 at the podium for you to take. Those have been provided to the planning commissioners as well, and will enter the meeting minutes as a supplemental to the staff report. So again, going through anticipated average throughout of the gasoline and diesel fuel per day when the project is in operation is approximately 6,500 gallons of gasoline per day, 7,000 gasoline or gallons of diesel fuel per day. The second phase is a 70-room, 3-story hotel, proposed for 43 feet and 4 inches. Correct me if I'm wrong, Steve. We do have the architect available to clarify that, which is part of the variance, which is also being requested as part of this project. Once completed, the project is estimated to employ 40 to 50 persons overall, with approximately 12 to 15 employees per shift, and that is with both phases active. And access to the site is provided by 2 driveways for the fueling station and 2 driveways for the hotel site on an existing private road from Montague Highway, State Route 3. So the project is currently vacant of structures and relatively flat, gently sloping from west to east, with elevations between 2,630 and 2,660 feet above mean sea level for the site. The project location, as I stated before, is 4 separate parcels that are listed within the resolution. As stated, we are recommending a condition of approval to require the applicant to combine those 4, to reduce the number of parcels from 4 to 2 to match the site location of the proposed uses. And going through, as I stated before, this is governed by chapter 16.60, which includes section 16.60.070D, which is the required findings to grant an amendment for a PUD modification, which also coincides with the City of Yreka's conditional use permit process. And the analysis that we've prepared for your consideration today begins on page 11, and we'll walk through those proposed findings and proposed facts for your consideration. So the first is that the proposed location of the planned unit development is in accordance with the objectives of this title. And beginning on page 12, the objectives of Title 16 zoning are to regulate the use of land, buildings, and other structures for residences, commerce, industry, and other uses required by the community. It is to regulate the location, height, and size of buildings or structures, yards, courts, and other open spaces, the amount of building coverage permitted in each zone, and population density. It also divides the city into zones of such shape, size, and number best suited to carry out these regulations and to provide for their enforcement. And so the proposed project would not change the overall location of the PUD or the location of the existing commercial highway and M1, which is light industrial zoning that was established within the 2004 zoning code. So chapter 16.60 states that allowable uses within a planned unit development are those listed within the unit development that was originally approved and amended, as well as the existing zones that those parcels exist within, which is the commercial highway zone, are all allowed uses. So the proposed project would not create a non-conforming use, structure, or lot that would be in violation of Title 16 if you were to grant the variance that is proposed later in the staff report. Therefore, the proposed amendment to the PUD can be found in compliance with the objectives of Title 16 zoning, according to our analysis. So the second finding, that the proposed location of the planned unit development and the conditions under which it would be operated or maintained will not be detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare, or materially injurious to properties or improvements to the vicinity. So based on our analysis, the proposed project, subject to the conditions imposed by this permit, would meet the applicable provisions of chapter 16.60. Conditions of approval are recommended to address operation and design aspects of the proposed project to meet this finding. By the way, if I am speaking too quickly, I've had a lot of caffeine, please just flag me down and tell me I'm speaking too quickly. So beginning with conditions 7 through 47, the proposed conditions of approval. These conditions of approval would address potential issues surrounding site plan design and maintenance, loitering, vehicle camping, on-site camping, litter, alcohol sales and consumption, noise, lighting, security, and traffic. Conditions 1 through 6 are standard conditions of approval, which we apply to all permits throughout the city of Yreka. So those are included in tentative parcel maps, site design. And so those are recommended for approval as well, but are standard for all projects. So we did receive comments during the EIR process, and we did receive comments prior to the submission of, or prior to this public hearing, and we may hear more tonight that we will address as they come through. But neighboring property owners have expressed a concern regarding additional freight traffic generated by the development impacting the flow of existing freight traffic into the neighboring truck stop. A series of conditions of approval are recommended to address the neighboring property concerns above and beyond the required mitigations of the certified final environmental impact report traffic analysis. So these California Environmental Quality Act requires us to analyze certain aspects of a project under prescribed statutory requirements. And so we have decided, in addition to those, that we are recommending the conditions 7 through 47. Specifically, the first is the existing road is currently at 38 feet in width, measured from front of curb to front of curb. In 2011, the city of Yreka has adopted the City of Reading street standards that requires a minimum road width of 48 feet for this type of road that services the existing, that would serve the existing and proposed development. A condition of approval will require the applicant to widen the street to meet the above city standards, bringing it into conformance with that city standard. An additional condition of approval recommended for the project will require the applicant to paint and sign the frontage of the development for no parking to address adjacent property owner concern over on-street parking impacting the traffic flow. We've also included a proposed condition to widen the, going back to the widening. The proposed condition to widen the private road to 48 feet is presented to address the comments previously made by members of the public regarding that street width. Such alteration does not increase the size of the project or its buildings, does not alter the traffic counts or street capacity of the project, and is not in conflict with the CEQA analysis that was performed and certified at the August 16th Planning Commission meeting. Traffic analysis under CEQA is conducted using vehicle miles traveled impacts, and as well as including the level of service to evaluate evacuation and congestion concerns for that purpose. Based on projected traffic counts, types, and flow that is presented within that document, the projected traffic is based on the proposed use of the properties, which would not change as a result of this proposed condition. The private road only serves the PUD development uses and does not function as a through street. Therefore, we would not see an increase in traffic if the street were widened. A condition of approval is recommended to increase the width of the second driveway used for freight fueling to a 45-foot minimum in width, which would allow a larger swing of freight traffic, recreational vehicles, and travel trailers into and out of that fueling station to address concerns of adjacent property owners. The increase in the width of the secondary entrance is proposed to address those concerns. The proposed development would interfere with adjacent property freight, RV, and travel trailer traffic to their property. The final two recommended conditions of approval to address safe traffic flow are the requirement to erect signage to prohibit freight traffic past the development into the narrow cul-de-sac section of the development, and to prohibit trucks, travel trailers, and recreational vehicles from using the first entry to the fueling station. The cul-de-sac portion of the private road is used primarily for the existing as well as the proposed hotel developments, which do not accommodate freight uses or traffic. The use of this portion of the private road would not be suitable for consistent freight traffic outside of normal delivery vehicles. The addition of no trucks beyond this point and no outlet would improve traffic flow on the private drive for all PUD users. The recommended condition of approval to erect trucks, travel trailers, and recreation vehicle fueling at next entry and adding unleaded fuel to the islands on the south side of the site would ensure on-site traffic flow does not result in traffic waiting on the private road for an oversized vehicle to exit the site. With the recommended conditions of approval, the proposed uses per our analysis would not be operated or maintained in a manner that would be detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare, or which would be materially injurious to properties or improvements to the vicinity. The third finding is that the proposed planned unit development will comply with each of the applicable provisions of this chapter. The proposed project is subject to the provisions outlined in chapter 16.60. Planned unit development. The provisions of chapter 16.60 include the required application materials, permitted uses, site area standards, required conditions, and findings to grant a use permit for a PUD. The proposed project has presented the required documentation and followed the procedures outlined within section 16.60.070 for amendments to the PUD. The uses proposed in the project are allowed in the CH and M1 districts. Specifically, these 4 parcels are only within a CH district. And the PUD, which has those listed uses. The PUD as a whole is over 5 acres, and the PUD therefore continues to be an appropriate land use measure. The standards for planned unit development have been met through the design of the proposed project based on our analysis. The project as designed and conditioned will not be reasonably objectionable to persons residing or working in the vicinity or injurious to property within the vicinity and do not involve any hazard of fire or explosion. Therefore, we find that the proposed project would meet the applicable provisions of chapter 16.60. Finding number 4, that the standards of population density, site area and dimensions, site coverage, yard space, height of structures, distance between structures, off-street parking and off-street loading facilities and landscaped areas will produce an environment of stable and desirable character consistent with the objectives of this title. The proposed project does not include any long-term residences, therefore the project would not change the established population density outlined in the PUD or the CH zone. The proposed project is subject to several local ordinances that define site design standards, setback, height, landscaping, off-street parking, and loading facilities and site coverage. The PUD was amended in August of 2009 to include language on the site character and conditions. Condition 3 of use permit number 4010 states, all uses authorized within the planned unit development are subject to the zoning ordinance regulations for the typical zone in which the use is allowed, including but not limited to project-specific site plan review and approval, setback requirements, height limits, landscaping, and parking requirements. The PUD includes both CH and M1 zones, but the proposed project is located, as I said before, in the CH portion and is not subject to M1 development standards. The proposed project meets all standards within the CH zone except for the height, which they are requesting a variance for. The proposed project, to conform with the character of the surrounding properties within the PUD, has requested a height variance to increase the height of proposed phase 2 to equal the height of the existing hotel. The existing hotel is actually at 45 feet in total height, and they are requesting a height variance up to 43 feet 4 inches. While the requested height would exceed the maximum height standard of 35 feet by 8 feet 4 inches, it is consistent with the height allowed for existing hotel uses within the PUD. The request for the project height variance was analyzed in the environmental documentation and found to have less than significant impact or no impact on aesthetics excuse me, at the requested height. If Planning Commission grants the additional height variance, the proposed development would maintain the height and development characteristics of neighboring properties within the PUD. So based on our analysis, the proposed project following city standards outlined in Yreka Municipal Code Section 16.36.040 ensures that the proposed project would maintain or improve the environment and character of the PUD. The 5th finding is that the standards of population density, site area and dimensions, site coverage, yard spaces, height of structures, distances between structures, and off-street parking and off-street loading facilities will be such that the development will not generate more traffic than the streets in the vicinity can carry without congestion and will not overload utilities. The effect of the project on utilities and transportation was analyzed under the certified final environmental impact report and subsequent environmental documentation. The conclusion was that the design of the proposed development, with a condition to implement all mitigations outlined in the environmental documentation, would ensure the project would not lead to an overload of utilities or congestion. The project will connect to private water and wastewater lines within the PUD that are owned and maintained by the PUD owners, which then connect to city water and wastewater lines located in the Highway 3 right-of-way. The project water demand and wastewater impact were modeled by the CEQA consultant in coordination with the City of Yreka Public Works Department, as well as Pace Engineering, which is the city's engineering contractor. The modeling utilized the square footage of the proposed uses of the development and water demand factor from the United States Geological Survey and other sources. Based on the information and assuming full occupancy, the project's hotel water consumption per day ranges between 7,000 to 14,000 gallons per day. The following assumptions were used to determine the potential water demand for the impact, which is presented in table 4.19-2 on page 15 of your packets. And based on that calculation, the project is estimated to use just a little bit over 20, is a little bit less than 272,000 to 279,000 gallons per day of water annually. City has an average use of 1.1 MGD. Don't ask me that one, it's off the top of my head right now. In winter and 3.8 MGD in the summer, with the capacity to treat up to 8.7 MGD. Additionally, the city has development impact fees for public facilities, streets, water systems, wastewater collection, and storm drainage charged to all new residential, commercial, office, and industrial projects. The project would be required to pay these fees as applicable. The water system diff is used for water system improvements required because of new development in the city, shown as additional demand of the project, and would not result in a need for new or expanded water facilities. The same can be said for our wastewater treatment plant We do have current capacity based off of the analysis as well as the contributions to the wastewater and water treatment development impact fees would ensure that this project would not overload those utilities and would contribute, as does every other development, to that. The FEIR spent considerable amount of time and analysis on the potential impacts of the proposed development on transportation infrastructure. As noted earlier in the report, the road serving the proposed project is privately owned by the members of the PUD. The road, as it is currently engineered, was analyzed for the potential increase in traffic. The FEIR analyzed and conducted that the private road would see an increase in peak AM/PM hour traffic, but the increase in traffic would not degrade the level of service below a C, which is the minimum level of service required in goal CI .2 of the currently adopted 2002 City of Yreka General Plan. The intersections that would see reduced level below C would be on Highway 3 Montague Road. The impacts of this project on the traffic system surrounding the PUD would be mitigated to less than significant with the implementation of the mitigation measures outlined in the FEIR, which are included in your proposed conditions of approval. The design of the proposed development with the inclusion of a condition to implement all mitigations outlined in the environmental document would ensure that it would not lead to an overload of any utilities or congestion that would reduce the level below a C. Therefore, we find that the proposed project with the conditions would meet this finding. Traffic impacts discussed in finding 2 analysis above also supports finding 5. And the design of the proposed development with the inclusion of these conditions outlined in the findings, excuse me, specifically conditions 43 through 47 would ensure that the project would not lead to an overload of utilities or congestion that would reduce that level. Therefore, we find that the proposed project with conditions would meet this finding. Finding number 6, that the combination of different dwelling types and or variety of land uses in the development would complement each other and will harmonize with existing and proposed land uses in the vicinity. The original use permit number 2883 indicated a full service restaurant in the proposed location for the project. Since the original formation of the PUD, subsequent use permits were approved by the city to add RV retail sales, RV repair shop, and retail businesses established within a building consistent with C2 and CH zones. Uses which complement each other can be interpreted as those different uses of land or other resources, each of which benefits or supplements the others, where they exist together in the same area. The addition of a travel center and hotel within the PUD can be considered to complement each other within this location. The proposed development includes a convenience store, fast food service, fueling station, hotel uses that are allowed as use by right within the existing commercial zones. The convenience store and fast food restaurant are combined within the structure in phase 1 of the project, which fits into the amended allowed uses consistent with retail businesses within a building approved by use permit 4010 in August of 2009. The proposed hotel development would be immediately adjacent to the existing hotel, which would be a compatible and identical use as allowed within the PUD. The proposed development includes uses that are allowed as use by right within the commercial highway zone and the amended PUD. The 2002 general plan and 2004 zoning code outlined allowed, conditionally allowed, and accessory uses that are compatible with each other and meet the purpose of the various zones throughout the city. Therefore, based on our analysis, the proposed development falls within these parameters of the general plan and zoning code for allowed and compatible uses. Therefore, we believe that this finding can be made based off of this assessment. Finally, finding number 7, that the proposed plan development is consistent with the general plan as previously discussed in finding number 6. The proposed development includes uses that are allowed as use by right within the general commercial land use designation. The 2002 plan outlines those allowed, conditionally allowed, and accessory uses throughout the city. The purpose and allowed uses of general commercial are larger commercial buildings located on parcels that can accommodate parking. The uses are typically standalone uses and oriented more towards vehicle traffic. The proposed development falls within the parameters of the general plan and furthers the purpose of the general commercial land use designation. Therefore, we believe this finding can be made by the Planning Commission. Finally, the findings are outlined in section 16.58.050 of the Yreka Municipal Code, and the Planning Commission may recommend approval to the City Council if all of the variance findings can be met. So finding number 1, because of special circumstances or exceptional characteristics applicable to the property, the strict application of city code deprives such property of privileges enjoyed by other property in the vicinity and under identical zoning classification. The proposed hotel development would exist within a special PUD that has allowed similar development to exceed the maximum height of the commercial highway zone. The maximum height of the commercial highway zone is 35 feet. The existing hotel is a 68-room, 3-story structure and 45 feet in height. The proposed hotel requests to build a new hotel development to 43 feet 4 inches, as mentioned previously, to allow a 70-room, 3-story structure to match physical scale to the adjacent structure. A strict interpretation of the CH zone into the PUD where a 45-foot building exists and is an inconsistent application of the zoning code in a PUD, which could lead to an unnecessary hardship for future developments, including this one. The second finding is a modification authorized will not constitute a grant of special privilege inconsistent with the limitations upon other properties in the vicinity and zone in which the property is situated. As discussed in finding 1, the proposed hotel increase to 43 feet 4 inches would not constitute a grant of special privilege due to the adjacent hotel height of 45 feet. The addition is consistent with the height of the adjacent hotel within the PUD. Third finding is strict application of the zoning regulations as they apply to such property will result in practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships inconsistent with the general purpose of such regulation and standards. The strict application of a 35-foot maximum on the proposed development could be considered an inconsistent application of the zoning regulation in this circumstance due to the existence of a taller structure of the same use type already within the zone. The purpose of a height maximum is to regulate the scalability of a development to ensure a cohesive landscape of buildings that are well matched in size and general shape. The strict application would result in a structure that would not fit the existing physical landscape of the area around the proposed development. The final finding to grant a variance is such adjustment will not be materially detrimental to public health, safety, or general welfare, or to use, enjoy, or valuation of property of other persons located in the vicinity. The final EIR analyzed the proposed development at the requested height for potential impacts to aesthetics. The environmental analysis found the proposed hotel would not have an adverse impact on scenic vistas, scenic resources, or that it would degrade the existing visual character of the surrounding area. Based on the environmental findings, the proposed increased height would not be materially detrimental to public health, safety, or general welfare or use, enjoyment, or valuation of property of other persons located in the vicinity. And so the city staff recommend Planning Commission open the public hearing today to collect public input on the proposed development. At the conclusion of the public hearing, city staff recommend approving the resolution that has been provided for you. The project did go through government code sections 65090 and 65091 for public noticing. So all property owners within 300 feet of this property did receive a public notice, as well as a posting in a generally circulated newspaper, as well as the physical postings here at City Hall and the City Council chambers to notice this meeting, as well as online ahead of time. We did receive 2 public comment letters, which were provided to you this week that we would like to cover in terms of commenting on those prior to entering into the public hearing. So 3 of the major comments that we got were related to vested rights, traffic impacts, and lighting. So an assessment of the existing physical area lighting. The proposed project will have to comply with the city of Yreka's regulations for downward facing lighting that is shielded and does not spill onto adjacent property owner properties. We've also recommended an addition condition of approval. Excuse me. Number 18 specifically on page 36 of your packets, outdoor lighting shall not exceed the maximum allowable light trespass of 0.25 foot candles, also measured as 2.69 lux, measured in any place and at any height at the edge of a neighboring property or the paved road closest to the subject property. The design of light fixtures shall comply with section 16.46.060 of the Yreka Municipal Code. We feel as though the lighting has been addressed with the addition of this condition, as well as the application of that existing Yreka Municipal Code. In terms of the traffic impacts, a significant amount of the comments were related to the compliance of the environmental impact report, which should have been submitted into the record for the previous meeting. The document has already been certified per the Planning Commission recommendation, as well as traffic impacts have been addressed with the addition of those that I mentioned within the staff report to make findings 2 and 5 of the planned unit development amendment. The other item that has come up is vested rights within the PUD itself, and it should be noted that creeds, cadences, and restrictions, also known as CC and Rs, are not germane to the current conversation for Planning Commission. So CC and Rs are held by the property owners within the PUD as a civil matter, similar to a homeowners association, and therefore are not part of the consideration for the conditions that you have before you. The PUD and the zoning are what are before you. So the findings are for the PUD that we have issued as a permit. And those have been presented to you as well as analyzed within the findings. And in terms of going forward with the vested rights argument, a public comment has brought forward an argument that the issuance of a PUD or CUP and building permits for the respective developments coupled with expenditure of substantial monies to develop the properties adjacent to this would cause a vested right issue, quoting the ABCO Community Developers Inc. versus South Coast Regional Commission, 1976, 17 Cal 3D 785. So that court case in terms of vested rights does not apply in this circumstance because this is in reference to a project that had received its entitlements prior to the creation of a coastal commission and the requirement for a coastal permit. So basically the findings of this court case is that if a property owner has performed substantial work and incurred substantial liabilities, they have the right to complete their project. And so that this would not apply to an adjacent property owner utilizing their property rights to the full extent for a already developed project on an adjacent property. I don't know if you'd like to say anything about that but we don't find that that applies in this circumstance. And I'm going to leave it at that for I apologize. There were 2 other items that were brought forward in relation to semi-parking not being available at the travel center, as well as offsite spillover of traffic. And we do have the architect available here today for the applicants to address those 2 issues. In terms of the other items that were brought forward, we felt that they were more concerned with the applications of the CCNRs and the PUD Owners Association, which again are not part of the consideration for the conditions as a whole. And am I forgetting one? Or would you like to add anything else? Okay, so I'll open it up again for clarifying questions before we move into the applicant coming forward to present their project and address your questions.
No questions.
No questions.
Okay, I can sip on some water while the applicant comes forward for their presentation. Yeah.
Good evening. My name is John Rollins, and I'm one of the attorneys for the applicant for the Yreka Travel Plaza. First of all, I want to introduce myself to those of you that don't know me. Although my family and I recently moved.
One moment. Could you just state for the record you're opening the public hearing? I apologize.
I beg your pardon. Opening the public hearing,
At 6:43.
And the applicant side has 15 minutes.
Yes.
15 minutes.
And if it pleases the commission, I would like to begin I've been asked by my clients to begin the presentation, but also I would like for Mr. Wakeman, our architect, to be heard as well. We won't use more than the 15 minutes, I promise. But again, just by way of introduction, my family and I lived in the city of Yreka for almost 15 years until we recently moved out to the country. I still maintain my office right over here on Center Street. So I'm not just an out-of-town attorney. I speak with local knowledge of the area and of the particular area that's the proposed development. Before I get started with telling you how good I believe this project will be for the city of Yreka, I'd like to introduce the principals of Yreka Travel Plaza. That's Deep Grewal and Amrit Deal. I believe you're going to hear from both of them a little bit later, but I've had a chance to get to know them, and I know them to be people, even though they're not from this area, they realize that if this commission and ultimately the city council grant the permit, they realize that they are corporate citizens of our area, that they are not out-of-towners. And I can assure you that they will work and endeavor to be integral parts of this community. Also, I believe Juliana already knows Steve Wakeman, our architect, very well. And I'd like to invite Steve to make some comments after I finish. He's worked very hard with staff and trying to work on the modification that staff requires for this project. But onto the project, I'm very excited about it, and I'll tell you why. First of all, this project will generate a considerable amount of revenue for the city of Yreka. Juliana briefly touched on the developers' fees that will be associated with this. They will be very substantial at the outset. On an ongoing basis, there will be a tremendous amount of sales tax generated through the sales that Juliana talked about before, fuel, concessions, food, and so forth. And of course, the sales tax revenue will go into the city coffers and be distributed as the Board of Equalization does that. And finally, the property taxes that'll be generated. And I realize those go to the county, but those will also be tremendous because the property will be reassessed and the property taxes will go up. So from a financial standpoint, it's definitely a winning situation for our local government, our community, and in particular for the city of Yreka. Secondly, this is going to create jobs. First of all, jobs in the construction of the facility. Many of those will be employed by local people, and also ongoing jobs, dozens of ongoing jobs for our people in our area to be able to have local good jobs. The next issue I want to bring up is the issue of the consumer. This is going to be really good for the consumer. And by the consumer, I mean local Yreka citizens and also the passing public. After all, Yreka does not have any big industry. Our lumber mills have gone, and those were gone years ago. And so I think that the Planning Commission, ultimately the council, will have to look into the future and see what source fields of revenue, what sort of development could be done. And in this case here, the proposed travel center is going to give the consumers, first of all, more choices of fuel, more choices of food. And it's also, again, for both the traveling public and also for the Yreka citizens. I know I lived on the north end of town, and there's really not much in the way of fast food in that particular area. So I think that would really help out a tremendous bit with that. And finally, the last thing I'd like to say before I turn it over to Steve for some comments is that particular area, this Planning Commission and the City Council is not done with developing that area. There is a prime development parcel right across Highway 3 on the north side. What will happen with that eventually, I can't begin to predict, but it would be in the city's best interest to show future developers that the city is willing to work with the developers to bring in new sources of revenue for the city, and that would go a long way toward doing that. I've seen the plans. I believe this would be an excellent addition to our city, and competition is the American way. All my clients want to be able to do is to fairly compete, and we ask for your approval of this agenda item. And with that, I'd like to ask Mr. Wakeman to say a few words, particularly maybe to address some of the concerns that Juliana had. And I thank you very much for your time.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Steve Wakeman. I will be the architect. I am the architect of record for this project. The Yreka Travel Center this is an exciting period in the evolution of a project and planning approval. And a lot of times I like to take a step back and what I notice is I'm going to share about 2 items here because the presentation was well said, but I want to emphasize 2 elements here. But the process of planning is working. And our client has been working on this since the 2021, and in fact, even previous in 2017. And I keep saying the process is working. So through this whole process of land use and the mitigation of some of the impact that the development will have on the community, it actually, the whole process, it creates a positive progression of moving forward, all the different iterations of changes. And so the planning department has been extremely involved going through the whole process. And some people don't see the whole process. They see certain portions. And the complete application, the zoning analysis, the sponsoring of the CEQA process, environmental impact statement took 18 months, the multiple traffic studies that have been done. So it's very exhaustive, making sure that we're complying to the Yreka municipal code, the conditional use permit procedures for the planned unit development. And it goes on, the verification of the compliance for the general plan and the zoning and the uses. So the city of Yreka, through the planning department and the developer, each has been listening to the public. And sometimes I know the public doesn't feel like it gets heard or neighbors don't get heard, but the public has definitely been listened to, and each of these individual concerns have been brought to light. And during the planning process, each of these concerns have been addressed and extensively. And so, first off, the land use. It's that was initially contended, but it's clearly in the ordinances and the amendment, the 2009 for this mixed use. And so that's why you see this amazing mixed use building, travel center with a convenience store, a trucks retail store, a food hall, and the patio, and it has a mixture and a variety of food offerings. And we believe these will be a good enhancement to the city and to the area. So, but at the same time, this land use, we've been making changes extensively to the plan. So we've been listening, the refinements, the design proposal, the site plan, and often it's painful in the design process, but over the period of time, these objectives are being met and meshing with the requirements of the zoning of the CEQA. And so with that, just to quickly reiterate some of the changes. I'm sorry, it sounds like I'm repeating some of the things that Juliana has said, but she did a great presentation. Just the fact that there used to be a truck parking where the hotel is. And it seems like some of the comments have been referring that there's a lot of truck fumes. There's no truck parking in this project. There's only truck fueling. There's only 4 fueling positions. And so there's no truck parking at all. And so that's important to understand. That changed quite a while ago. There is no truck traffic down the road to the existing hotel. The trucks are only allowed to go into that second entrance, and the RVs are only allowed to go into that second entrance. according to the new conditions of approval. The road will be widened to accommodate the traffic, to accommodate the wide turning that the semi trucks and the RVs and the trailers will be needing. So that will accommodate the additional turning requirements and spatial. So a second access to the terminal, the truck fueling will be widened. That will help with the turning and also signage will be added so that all of the the trucks, the RVs and trailers only are allowed to go to the second entrance of the fueling. So part of that dynamic in the it's only for truck fueling. One of the complaints was that the challenge of people are going to use the facility. Typically, truckers are very a good community. They're like their original social media. They know where the spots are to where they want to stop. And so obviously they're going to stop across the street, and they won't stop at this place, but they'll get fueling. If they want a quick turnaround, they'll stop at here, get fuel, and be on their way. So some of the other things that were mentioned, the hotel was reduced when we found out that it was had to mitigate those impacts. So it was 101. We had to reduce it to 70. And typical lighting.
I give you a 3-minute warning.
Okay. And I was just going to close out. The developers prepared to accept all the conditions of approval. And we believe that this proposed development will harmonize with existing land uses, and it'll be a valuable addition to the community. The food hall, the lounge, the fireplace and patio will appeal to the local community as well as the highway traffic. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all tonight. Thank you.
Does the commissioners have any additional questions for the applicant before we move into?
Do not.
Mr. O'Brien, would you just like to call for?
Can we take a 5-minute?
Okay. So there's a request by the Planning Commission to take a 5-minute recess, and so we will begin taking additional public comment in 5 minutes. So do you want to announce that we'll now be accepting public comment on the item?
Yes, we will now be accepting public comments on the item.
Go first. You ready? My name is Darren Mercier. I represent some of the business owners or most of the business owners within the existing PUD. And my clients have serious concerns about the amendments to the PUD, of the impact to their businesses and to the safety of their patrons and their employees. They relied on this planned unit development and the uses allowed therein when they purchased their properties, obtained permits, and invested the monies they did to develop those existing businesses, which ended up with an RV park, hotel, existing fueling station. And they very much look forward to the development of a restaurant on that parcel. But to allow a competing uses that are different than what was originally planned, and that those uses, that new use potential, would create traffic that would be blocking the entrance and exits to the current truck stop. It's going to impact the flow of people getting in and out of the RV park and the existing hotel. Second hotel would potentially block the view of and signage of the existing hotel. And so these are injurious to the existing landowners more than complementary. And that's not what a PUD is about, including my client's vested property rights. There'll be others that talk more specifically about the safety, and we included some of that in the letter that I provided you. But as you look, Juliana talked a lot about Title 16 and the findings that have to be made by the city to grant this amendment and variances. For example, under Title 16, a development will not be, if it increases the traffic or overloads the utilities. And we've talked about these internal private roads that the EIR did not address because they're internal to the PUD, but it will have substantial impact to that. And you must consider that in looking at Title 16. Will these improvements injure the existing properties under Title 16? Well, you'll see that the stopping at the increased traffic at this traffic light is going to block entrances, affect flow. And even with an increased width in roadway, we're still going to have vehicles crossing over into opposing lanes, creating traffic jams. There's just no way to queue all these vehicles. Further injury is, regardless of signage, we're not going to have police in there policing this. And so when these additional semi trucks, RVs come into there, they're going to need a place to park. There's no on-site parking in this development. And so naturally, regardless of signage, they're going to pull down that road. They're going to pull onto these other properties. They're going to impact these other properties. They're going to bear that expense. Will this development complement versus contradict the original development? And this does contradict the original development. It's not complementary.
And that's your time.
My clients are not opposed to development in the city. They're for development in the city, but they want it to be consistent with the PUD and the monies that they spent in investing in. So with that, thank you very much.
Comments?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Baumik Modi. I am a California City of Yreka business owner plus a pharmacist at Rayleigh's Pharmacy. Couple of things I would like to address is, as a state, we are going toward more EVs, and we have so many gas stations already in the city of Yreka. Do we need more gas stations? I question that. I think we need more other kind of developments. The second thing is, if the new business not having a truck parking, during the last winter storm, I have seen trucks parked both sides of the road. And if they are not having a truck parking, that does not solve the problem that we have already faced. And sales tax, we have only limited residents and we have limited people traveling on I-5. They are already utilizing the services of the city of Yreka provides. So does it really generate additional sales revenue? Not sure of that. And as a part of the owner, any new construction, especially for the hotel, doesn't make sense if it's not close to 100 units. It does not justify the expenses incurred with the 70-room motel. So that's all.
We have Kelly online.
Yes, thank you. Are you able to see my screen if I share it?
Are you requesting a share screen?
Yes, I plan to share my screen, but it's disabled. I wanted to see if there's an option to share the screen.
Typically, the answer is no, we do not allow sharing screens within the city council policy, which applies to the planning commission.
Okay, I can speak about it. So my name is Kelly. I'm with the firm Kittleson, representing adjacent property owners, and I wanted to speak on the transportation side. I work for a transportation consulting firm that does a large amount of development work. We've identified several concerns, several of which have not been addressed by the proposed amendments. I'd like to speak to those specifically and reiterate some of the points that were in our memo. We raised 6 concerns, and several of them haven't been addressed by the proposed conditions of approval. I wanted to specifically point out the additional traffic on the unnamed private road that serves the existing uses in the site, and the significant increase in traffic with this development, which is expected to generate about 517 trips during the weekday PM peak hour. Specifically wanted to note that those trips are going to be using the signal at Montague Road and are projected to add 229 northbound left turns and 14 northbound rights. The traffic study projected that this movement would operate over capacity in the future with the development, which wasn't addressed in the study, and also projected that queuing would back up beyond the 2 northern accesses to the existing Yreka truck stop, meaning that traffic during the weekday PM peak hour and a typical day will be blocking both access points to the existing Yreka truck stop, something that hasn't been addressed by the conditions of approval. In addition, we're concerned that the conditions of approval, while widening the driveways in the roadway, don't show that the site will work with these changes. The lack of queuing at the semi truck and now RV portion of the site doesn't allow for more than 4 trucks to queue. So at this point, if there's trucks queuing on site, there's nowhere for them to queue besides the unnamed private road. So even if there's a sign saying no parking, there's a potential for trucks to have to queue, potentially to have to reverse if they try to enter the fuel station and see that there isn't space. Additionally, I wanted to reiterate the concern about the lack of truck or RV parking and the expectation that trucks or RVs visiting the site may wish to go to the businesses that are proposed or to frequent the convenience store while getting fuel. And there's nowhere to do that, meaning that they will inevitably end up parking in other surrounding uses or on the unnamed private road. I also wanted to note that the challenges with the access and circulation with these sites will have impacts on the surrounding businesses because of the potential for traffic to back up onto the unnamed private road, or for there to be friction as vehicles struggle to enter the fuel station whenever there's a vehicle waiting to exit. The site is quite tight and will only become more tight with the widening that is in the conditions of approval of the unnamed private road. Again, encourage you to take a look at the memo that we submitted and the concerns that haven't been addressed in there, and would request that more evidence be provided that widening the site access points and the unnamed road will actually allow for trucks to enter and exit at the same time. The truck turns provided by the applicant don't show these movements. Thank you.
Any more public comments?
Good evening.
Just really quick, there's a little button on the front and it lowers
How low does it go?
pretty low. You're good.
Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Monica Mendoza. I'm with DRD Hospitality, representing the Holiday Inn Express. The PUD was carefully planned out, complementing all business owners, created not to compete with each other. The changes in the Planning Commission, the changes the Planning Commission is being asked to make could put our guests in harm's way. If there was an accident with 2 diesels, there would be no way from people to come down from the hotel or for the RV park to get out. Your proposed widening of the road doesn't widen it wide enough for 2 diesels to come in, for a diesel to be able to pull in without going into the other lane. That widening needs to happen. It needs to be as wide as a diesel could drive in without going into the side lane. The changes would bring considerable traffic, and we would like you to not go further with it and keep the PUD as it's supposed to be. The word used in harmony, making these changes is the opposite of harmony, is opposite of what this PUD was planned for. Please continue to keep it as it is directed, as being restaurants. Thank you.
Any more public comments?
And for the sake of time today and efficiency, you can line up at the podium to make public comments.
Lorenzo Love, Yreka resident. I'm also concerned about the congestion on Highway 3. I don't know if your traffic study is going to stand the test of time. In the future, it looks like very likely at Caltrans will require additional traffic control systems there, signs, lights, widening the road, who knows what. And since this is not a Caltrans created problem, it's a city created problem, will Caltrans pay for all that? You have to consider that. This could run into millions of dollars if you got to widen the road. I suggest you add another condition at the new development, reimburse the city for any expenses that Caltrans charges them for improving the road. millions of dollars they could save.
My name is
Rhonda, and I work the truck stop, and I don't know if you guys have ever sat up there during the day or anything, but have you seen how these drivers drive? They fly into our stop. And if you have one flying into ours and one flying into theirs, we're gonna have accidents. It's just not, it's just, yeah.
Okay, my name is Melissa and I'm an employee at the Yreka truck stop. I overheard that there was lots of studies done and reports, and I would love to see some of these reports because there's no possible way that this could be approved and found safe. There's no possible way, period. Wintertime, it's not just backed up. It's not just trucks parked. I mean, it's backed up all the way to the freeway and onto the freeway. So you can't tell me having another truck stop, a competition, is going to help this vision of the travel center. I mean, we saw travel center, and I thought like the new developments were going to complement each other, like, you know, a truck washing business or secured parking or, you know, something to enhance the already truck stop that's there. And this is not what I'm seeing here. This is doing the opposite. Not only we don't make that much money in order to have two truck stops there. It's gonna both of them aren't gonna make it enough to stay open. So personally, it's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. I mean, there's lots of other businesses, lots of other ways, other things that can go on that lot that could make the travel center grand. But putting another truck stop there is just ridiculous, and it's very unsafe. And morally, it's just wrong to do to your already businesses there, to the people staying at the RV park, to the hotel that's already there and been there servicing our community for years. It's not right. So I just so that's my objection.
We have a speaker online, Aman.
Yes, my name is Aman Dillon. I am representing the A1 investment company that owns the spur road that we're talking about. We purchased the lot from Roger Eckerman, who actually developed the PUD and had the grand vision of having the Yreka Travel Center right there. We, you know, and Juliana mentioned it, there was only one water connection for this parcel or this entire development. We get one water bill that goes to the RV park that gets split into the threes. So the hotel pays their share and the truck stop pays their share and the rest is left for the RV park. I mean, this was not planned as multiple travel or truck centers. I don't know what the city is looking at, what documents they have, what resources they are checking, but I don't know, you know, they do not know what we are going through when we are servicing or splitting these bills. The spur road is owned by A1 Investment, and I hear you asking this developer to widen it. He doesn't own it. This developer is granted an easement, is not granted the ownership of that spur road. He has not paid one dime to maintain it. He has not paid one dime to keep the lights on. He has not even contacted the Yreka Travel Plaza centers to find out what is his payment for the taxes that we have been paying on the PUD's behalf. So for Juliana or the city to recommend that this travel center is going to be part of the community, you know, we already see it with their actions. They are not part of the community. They have never been part of the community. They are travel center developers that will develop and move on. So please reconsider. Do not, you know, and I hear you saying that CCNR is not a city issue. That's infighting. Yes, there will be a lawsuit within our PUD to stop this. This is not ending here, but city's responsibility lies with the PUD that they signed and accepted in 1998. And I'm urging you to stick to that.
I guess I get to follow that. My name's Lowell Pratt, and I'm with the Holiday Inn. I have two basic concerns. The first one is with regards to item 6 on the ordinance. It indicates that for each business in the PUD to be complementary and will harmonize with the existing and proposed land uses in the PUD. This proposal is not complementary and does not harmonize with the existing land use in the PUD. Number one, there's already a business with a truck and RV fueling station. There's already a convenience store. There's already a hotel. This project does not offer anything new or complementary to the PUD. Bringing in a copycat business is competitive and not complementary, nor does it harmonize. This would clearly be a violation of the intent of the cities of Yreka's own ordinance. Examples of businesses that would be complementary would be, for example, a sit-down restaurant, what it was called for initially with table service, a coffee and donut shop, an automotive or truck repairs shop, a movie theater, wouldn't that be cool? A bicycle shop. Each of these businesses are missing in the PUD and would be complementary and harmonized with the current land uses. My second concern is to address the whole road issue. This project proposes four fueling stations for trucks without parking or staging area. This will cause the following problems. 1, staging will take place on the private road. 2, truckers will be required to park across the road at the current truck stop, creating additional traffic going back and forth on the private road. Truckers only plan to stop once a day. There's about 6 functions that they endeavor to do. Fueling, overnighting, dining, showering, laundry, restroom use, and maybe others, fulfilling paperwork and whatnot. So the idea of these folks coming and just fueling up and leaving doesn't happen because they don't want to stop 6 times a day. They want to stop once to take care of it, but there's not a place to park. So that's going to create, to establish the 7,000 gallons, that's going to create about 50 vehicles a day additional. Where are they going to park? They're going to park on the road. I've watched the truckers come and go, and they don't read signs. They park anywhere they can and anywhere they want to. The police have already refused to come and to patrol that, refused to give citations. And so having a sign is not going to do anything but give a place for graffiti to collect. Even if they do cite, how are they going to tow those? Do we have the ability to tow semi trucks out of here? It's still going to be a problem, still going to restrict my guests from getting in and out, even if there's a citation. My time's up.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is David. I'm the head of maintenance for the Holiday Inn Express. I'm the one that's constantly painting curves, repairing the signs that truckers have ran over, repairing the curves that truckers have ran over because they don't have the proper space to be able to leave the truck stop or enter the truck stop. Entering the truck stop, we have clear signs that say entry only, exit only. They don't care. They've ran them over, pulled them into the parking lots. In the wintertime, when that road packs up, when it gets real cold, there's nowhere else for the truckers to park. There's times I've had to park at the truck stop and walk through the snow all the way down to the hotel because I can't even get my car down there. So to figure out that you're going to get truckers parking on the red curbs that aren't going to listen to your signs and think that you're going to have room for them to be able to exit both properties is just physically impossible. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Gary Hall, and I reside in Medford, Oregon. Have been and am a consultant to the truck stop industry. I have located and helped design dozens of truck stops for proper access and proper circulation. And I also own and operate Class 8 trucks, and I do possess a commercial CDL and medical card. When those trucks, I've never seen a facility laid out quite like this one on the truck fueling. And when those trucks go into fuel, the first thing they're gonna do is have the restrooms, and then they're gonna get something to eat. In the meantime, their trucks parked out in the lanes blocking traffic. And that's not going to go away. There's a nationwide shortage of truck parking, and this facility proposes 0 truck parking. So, and item 2 on my comments are, we have an RV park in Eastern Oregon. And little things like a Greyhound bus stopping, blocking the RV traffic, they go on to the next place. So that's, I fear for that for the RV park is not being able to get their patrons in and out. And then I'll mention that the proposed design is the worst one I've ever seen when it comes to truck fueling. There's no place for trucks to turn. There's no place for them to queue. They just stop. And when they stop, that will back out into the interstate off ramps, and you can't stop that. You can tell the trucker you're going to tow them, but they will not leave. They'll just stay there until there's a place for them to go. And it's going to have a negative effect on the hotel, because if registrants can't get to the hotel and check in and go back downtown to buy something, they're just going to stay there and they're not going to stop at all. I don't think that some of the numbers we've heard tonight of 7,000 gallons a day, that's going to equal 70 trucks. And there's a good rule of thumb of 1 in 4 trucks for fuel. So you can do the math, and I'll let the traffic engineers work with that. RVs fueling with trucks, that's a disaster. All the new installations have separate RV lanes from the autos and separate from the truck traffic, and this does not provide for that. And I question the water usage. Typically a truck stop will use between 15 and 18,000 gallons of water a day. That's with showers, and the typical shower is going to be 20 minutes. So you can see what that's going to do for time when the truck's out on the lanes. And I think the circulation issue is the one you should be concerned about the most, because there's basically no circulation. The trucks are going to go in there to fuel. They have no place to go. So they go inside and they can't get out. And then they're going to go across the street and attempt to park there. And then you have cross traffic there. Thank you for your comments. I didn't mean to make comments. I did leave you notes of my concerns. I have others, but we'll do that at a later time if necessary. Any questions?
That's your time.
No question. Thank you.
No, is that the end of public comments?
So we'll go back to the applicant. We do allow the applicant 5 minutes to address any comments that were brought forward. So would the applicant's representative like to address it? Oh, you do have a speaker.
Yes, I would at this time. My name is David Zarkin. Thank you very much for your time.
Just a quick point of clarification, David, is this your 5-minute rebuttal, or is he asking for a 3-minute comment?
I was just going to have a 3-minute comment and then follow it with a 5-minute rebuttal when the rebuttal time was appropriate or deemed appropriate by the commission.
So we would have the applicant's original representatives come up for the rebuttal. You may serve as the applicant's rebuttal, or you may make a comment. You may not use the time of both.
As it is right there, perhaps you'd like to ask Mr. Amrit Diol for clarification as to who he would like to have do the rebuttal. I'm happy to do either one according to what he would prefer.
I think you're coming up. Okay. So just for a point of clarification, this is the total 5-minute rebuttal between the two of you.
Applicant gets 15 minutes.
I'm going to go 3 minutes and he's going to do the 5 minutes.
Applicant gets 15 minutes. The other side goes, and the applicant gets 5 minutes to look.
So he cannot have the 3 minutes and the 5.
Is the applicant?
Yes.
I am prepared to do the rebuttal if need be.
I'm just going to comment on, whatever the things were. So 3-minute comment and he will rebuttal.
Are you with the applicant?
Yes.
Yeah.
You had 15 minutes to comment.
Okay.
Now you have 5 minutes for rebuttal.
Oh, okay. That's fine then.
I'd like to suggest that you would have that date split that time.
Yeah. So I'll be really quick.
Give me 1 moment to load the timer. All right. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, I just want to few concern. Good evening, guys.
Planning Commission and everybody here. Let me be quick on some of the points that I think we started the application in 2017. So it has been a long journey. It takes a lot of time for a property to be addressed, from a land to a pursuance, money, 600 emails, and a lot of stuff. And few concerns that I have with, we started with a truck stop. Yes, we know they are making an issue about, my friends are making an issue about all the parking and everything. We started with a truck stop. They didn't like that. We didn't went to a truck fueling station with no showers. To address another question, we have 20 Tesla chargers, already signed the contract and waiting on them for EV chargers. Another thing that we had was till last month, to be very personal, they're saying that they're local. Till last month, the truck stop was for sale. So I just want to address those few things to be very also. And these are the things that they addressed. So other things I wanted to know, that travel center, American is built on small businesses. There are thousands of small businesses, that country that we started by entrepreneurs with vision, and so is ours. Taking a piece of land and currently to make approximately 12,000 square feet of travel lounge. It's not a travel center, it's a lounge where local people can enjoy and relax and watch their football games. The city can be with future generations and enjoy, take a lot of time, perseverance, a lot of money. And as I mentioned, it's about 600 emails for the last 5 years that we are doing. Another thing that we want to do, that we from time to time, we abided by all the rules and regulations that was sent by different departments, from the building or from the planning commission, or from the planning, CEQA, EIR, whatever was required, it was done that way, So I just want to make sure that it's a travel lounge, it's a great food experience for the locals to come, with proper restrooms. Of course, the wives decides that. But then, so the locals and the travels from all over can stop, make a stop in Yreka. They're not passing by Yreka that nothing exists. And I would like to, that's pretty much it is. And I would like, David to continue with it.
Thank you. How much time do I have remaining?
You have 2 minutes and 37 seconds.
Thank you. Addressing this very quickly, one thing that has been noted is that so often we've heard tonight that this PUD was established and it's going to be frustrating individuals' expectations, and that they've spent millions of dollars in having this project. Nowhere in the PUD does it say that there can be competitive, that there can't be competitive businesses. Basically what you have is it's supposed to be, one of the thing is, it's been presented to this commission that there is simply one lot left, and this is a development of one lot. That PUD actually consists of 8 lots, 4 of which have been purchased by my client. And so the reason why that is important is because the CC&Rs, which were adopted in conjunction with this property, and it was done, these CC&Rs were done in the early 2000s, was that there were one vote per lot. So my client actually has 4 votes to this PUD. And presently, there was supposed to be no restrictions on any business other than a nuisance. And that is defined in the CC&Rs as a noxious, illegal, or serious offensive activities. This commission has taken into consideration what was read by Juliana at the beginning of this. And by the way, Juliana, your reading was incredible. I don't know how you did it for so many minutes. But as it was shown, there are, as part of the conditional use permit, means to make the alcohol sales and use on the premises safe, the lighting to be safe, the different parking. We've gone to extensive discussion about that, how to make this project safe. It is not a noxious product, and I still challenge, despite what the opposition has said, there is simply no basis to say that persons could not expect that there might or would not be any amendments. As a matter of fact, the conditional use permit, one of the very items that has been mentioned and has been agreed to by my client is that the permittee shall comply at all times with the planned unit development set out in PD permit 2883 and all subsequent amendments. It was anticipated there would be amendments, and as a matter of fact, there have been amendments, as Juliana pointed out, permit 3081, permit 3507, permit 4010. And so and just in summing up, I thank you. And lastly, with this idea of parking a problem, as was mentioned,
That is your time.
thank you very much.
Yes, is that the last of the public hearings? That would typically conclude with the applicant.
Correct. That's the conclusion.
So
So now the planning commission may enter into discussion. And just a reminder for those in the gallery, we ask that you take your conversations outside just because those voices do carry as the planning commission deliberates. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. So what's before you is to make a decision on the three items, the variance, the CUP, the PUD amendments. There are a number of comments that have been made. There's a number of issues that are effectively out of your purview. The largest issue there are the discussion regarding the CC&Rs and the internal workings of the PUD organization. There are a number of findings that need to be met, and I would direct your attention to page 11 of the packet. Page 11 of the packet, which looks like it's page 1, 2.
Should be 11 of 83. Oh, you're talking about the order in the PD or the
I'm talking
PDF.
about page 4 of the document itself. I see you have hard copies of it. I don't know if,
page 4.
yeah, page 4 of the staff report itself. It's page 11 of 83 in the packet. At the bottom of yours, it does say 11 of 83. That's where we start the analysis, and each of the bold titles, headings there are the findings that you need to make. Staff has quoted what the code says and then done some analysis below that. That's what's germane to your analysis. There have been a number of things that have been said that you can take into consideration, but they don't fall into those categories, a number of statements. It's all for you to weigh how and where it falls in, but things like competitive nature, it's up to you to decide whether or not that falls in with the harmony component or not. It is not clearly stated that like one of the findings, this shall not be in competition. It doesn't say that. So that's up to you to analyze and weigh those types of things. So things like neither of the projects are going to make money. That the economics of this are not effectively in your purview, because that's not in one of the findings that needs to be made. The creating of traffic, that is applicable to the extent that it is. So with the CUP, or sorry, with the EIR, that analysis was done in a different way. Here, if you can plug that into one of the findings, such as the second finding regarding detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare, it could be applied. But that's up to you to deliberate on these things, understand them, and apply it. And so just take that into account. Things like construction costs, I don't know how that's applicable. But again, that would be one of those factors that you would have to think about and where it actually fits in. And the reason I say all this is in your deliberations, you're going to need to focus on these findings and whether or not those findings, as they've been analyzed by staff, are applicable or sufficient to address all of the findings that have been made, and that you agree that the findings are sufficient for approval. Conversely, if you don't think those findings have been made, you will then need to articulate why not and which finding it is that you cannot make. Now, before you tonight is a resolution for approval. If your decision ultimately is to deny, you should articulate why you're denying and which finding cannot be made, so that we could bring back a finding addressing, or a resolution addressing which finding or findings are insufficient based on the testimony that was just provided during the public hearing. There was one speaker who said that she was, I believe that was Kelly from Kittleson, made a statement saying the access is tight, and there were a number of items that she had made, or statements she had made. And the last one was requesting more evidence in support of the project. And indeed, if you cannot make that finding, yes, this has met all of the different requirements, and you would like to see more evidence presented, then you could request more evidence, but it would be pointed, it should be pointed, very specific, what type of evidence on which finding you would like to see more. That would then be done, come back for a continuation of the hearing, if you so choose. And that new hearing would be, or be effectively a continuation of this hearing to specifically address that issue. It would not be a new hearing from the beginning, and so comments and analysis would be focused on that one or more issues. So I have to say, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I can also, if you have any specific questions related to the testimony that was brought forward, I can address those for you as well. For example, there was a comment made related to Highway 3 impacts, widening the road in Caltrans, and the cost of that project. So going back to Caltrans has been consulting once as a responsible agency within the CEQA process. And so they did also review the traffic analysis several times. And they also have been part of this project from the beginning to review the project even before it went to a CEQA traffic analysis. One of the things to note is that they did not have any concerns over the current width of Highway 3 for the proposed project. The only concerns that they had voiced is what is found within the final EIR is the acceptance of those comments around one intersection and performing an intersection control evaluation report, also known as an ICE report. One of the things to note is that if there is a condition or mitigation measure, so mitigation measures are specific to CEQA, a condition is specific to the PUD amendment, your conditional use permit process. Any of those that are required of the applicant is fiscally responsible to pay for. And so if Caltrans does come back after the intersection control evaluation report and requires a certain condition as part of that report analysis, that would be the cost of the applicant. That would not be on the cost of the city, and that would not be on the cost of the surrounding PUD owners. It's within the EIR portion as well. Yeah. And then in terms of addressing the proposed condition to widen the road 10 feet, that is in relation to a set standard that the city has adopted and evaluated through the Planning Commission and City Council in 2011. In addition to that, the National Association of City Transportation Officials do recommend anywhere from an 11-foot to a 9-foot travel lane for freight traffic. And so the 10-foot does fit within that range. If the planning commission is concerned about that and would like to go with the maximum recommended of the National Association of City Transportation Officials of 11 feet, you may amend the condition to do so. In addition to that, I wanted to clarify the project description. There are no shower facilities within that, the travel center, and it is not designed as a truck stop. It is designed specifically as similar to a fueling station, gas station. The reason why we don't say gas station anymore is, again, we also are providing electric vehicle charging, which is why it changes over to a fueling or travel station. Were there any other questions? I think those were the main. Oh, in addition to that, the applicant is providing at least 12 electric vehicle charging stations. And as the applicant has stated today in the testimony, there will also be 20 additional Tesla charging stations. The 12 EV stations will be phase 2 and phase 3 electric vehicle charging stations. The city of Yreka does not have a minimum number of electric charging stations within its off-street parking requirements. Although there are state recommendations around those, and we can get additional information if you need for that type of charging.
If I could make one other clarifying comment about the condition relating to the street widening. The way it is written, that condition was put in based on the comments made at the EIR hearing. And at that hearing, there were the comments about the width of the street. So the condition says that the applicant is responsible for widening of the street. And the commenter Aman from A1 Investment mentioned that the applicant does not own the street. And so when we were drafting that condition, we recognized that. And so the way the condition is written is that the applicant would have to negotiate with the street owner for that widening to address that concern. But if could not obtain that widening, then that condition of the widening would not apply. And that's to prevent some gamesmanship there of the person's complaining about the street width, then withholding the right to widen the street and effectively vetoing your decision.
Would you like me to read the specific language we've included for that, or?
Sure.
Okay. So this is condition number 43 on page 32 of your packets. Applicant shall widen the private road from the intersection of Highway 3 Montague Road to the southern point of the assessor parcel number 053-642-380 to 48 feet measured from front of curb to front of curb, if permission granted by the property owners association no later than 30 days after application for building permits by applicant to the city of Yreka. If permission is not granted, then the road shall remain at 38 feet.
Okay, is it okay if I?
Yes, please.
I just want to thank everyone who came here to talk. I think that I admire the passion and the interest in this project. And as a community member, I have frequented all of the businesses up in that area. And I think it's really great for Yreka, and I look forward to further development. And with respect to the staff report, I believe it was not only sufficient, it really exceeded my expectations. And I think that the issues that were brought up at the previous meeting regarding the road widening, I was really pleased to see that we had made changes to that. So I am ready to vote tonight. So I want to ask the other members.
Do you have any comments, Commissioner Devlin?
Yeah, Commissioner O'Brien, I had ample time to review all the project. This time, I don't have any questions or specific comments.
No, obviously passions run high about this issue. But I see it as a growth possibility for Yreka. And we need tax revenue, jobs are at a premium. And I have no further questions.
I am prepared to make a motion. We're ready for that. But first I do want to thank the planning director for all of her hard work with this. I appreciate it greatly. I feel like we are confident, we can confidently move forward tonight because of that. So thank you.
And your help too.
So I would like to make the motion to approve resolution 2023-06, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Yreka approving amendment to planned unit development PUD number 5-98 and associated use permit number 2883 and approving variance 2021-45 for assessors parcel numbers 053-652-350, 053-642-360, 053-642-370, and 053-642-380 within the city of Yreka.
Just a quick point of clarification. The first assessor number is also 053642. You said 652. So just a clarification for the record.
Second.
So the vote is.
You would
Call the vote.
You would now call the vote, and each one of you would vote.
Aye.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Aye.
And Commissioner O'Brien, aye.
Do you want to hit the gavel? All right. Thank you. We do have some just quick comments and we do still need to adjourn for the evening. So just for everyone in the audience, we are still in an active meeting.
Old business, none. New business, none. Future planning items. Future agenda items or action items and presentations to the planning commission that may occur within the next 90 days. All dates are tentative and subject to change if needed. A general plan 2044 vision statement and guiding principles, October 18th, 2023.
Yeah, we're finally getting back to the general plan. I apologize for the break in the system. We used to have staff and member comments at the end of the agenda, but I did want to take a quick announcement to introduce Alia, our new planning manager, who will be joining us at planning commission meetings in the future. So I just wanted to introduce her and, you know,
We've met.
yeah. So do you want to?
I'm just really looking forward to working with you all moving forward and the planning commissioners who are not here. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Adjournment. Next meeting is October 18th, 2023 at 6 p.m.